Hello there and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And it's 2025. Happy New Year everybody. And apart from those New Year resolutions, it's time to get control of your personal finances. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you how to build this personal budget template for yourself. Now, there is a link in the description to a free support file so you can follow along, or you can purchase the completed template on the Change Tips and Tools Patreon. So, without further ado, let me show you how to use Power Query and Power Pivot together to manage your personal finances. Let's do this. So here's the starting point. As I said, you should be able to find a link to this free file in the description. I've got a support sheet, so this is where I'm going to use to drive all my Power Pivot tables here for my report page. And this is where I'm going to have all the visuals, so I can monitor my performance against the budget that I've set. Here is where we will capture our actual transactions, and I've already done a bit of formatting here. This is where we'll catch the bank transactions. So once a month we'll update this with our bank transactions, and we'll give it an account name. So what account name and what subcategory does it belong to, so we can organize it on our report. And talking about our subcategories, this is where we define our subcategories. So I've already created this table here on this tab called budget types. So for example, if I look at let's look at living expenses, you can see I've created a number of living expenses in this table, and this table under table design is called tblBudgetTypes. Where you see this little icon here, it's simply using the Windows icon, pressing the semicolon key. I'm using an emoji, and then you put in a word at the end of it. So that's what I've done. So if I remove that filter on this table to reveal everything, so I've set all those up as a starter, and these are pretty much designed for England. So but what you'll find is that you've got these budget types, which are income and expenses, and I would say just keep it to two budget types, income and expense, like so. But you can add as many categories and subcategories as you wish to this table. Then we've got the budget planner. So this is where we'll create a plan for our year. So you do this once and we'll create that table. So the first thing I'm going to do is on budget types is I want this subcategory to be available as a drop down in my actuals and also in the budget planner, as well as within my report file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the column here, subcategory, and I'm going to go to formulas, and I'm going to do define name, and you can see it's given the table name here. Now if I click OK on this, in earlier versions of Excel, you may get an error, and if so, just wrap this in the indirect function. So remember, the indirect function turns text into a range. So you use indirect, open bracket, then quotation mark at the end of this, and close bracket. So I'm going to call this named range R, lowercase r, sub categories, like so, and click OK, and that will now become available. So I've now named that, and because it's a table, it will automatically expand. That's the beauty of Excel tables. So let's look at our budget planner and let's create this table here. So the first thing I like to do whenever I'm creating a table is I'll do the first row and play around with the formatting, and once I've got that, I'll then turn it into a table. So here it's going to be for 2025. I want subcategory here, so I'm going to go to data validation, select data validation again, select list, and if you can't remember the name ranges you created, then you can just press F3. So I'm going to click in here and press F3, and there's subcategories. I'm going to select that and click OK, and then click OK again. And now I have my drop down for my data validation. You now within Office 365, which is what I'm using here, you can type the first letters and it'll filter the drop down as well. So I'm going to do wages as my first line here, and I'm going to put £5,000 here. Let's just copy that across like so. So I like the formatting, and I'm going to do Control. If I highlight all of this, again, I'm going to do Control 1. So the format on the number tab is going to be a number, and I am going to have negative numbers in red here as well with a minus, and I'm going to have the thousand separator there as well with 2 decimal places. So I'm going to accept that as my format. And then once I'm happy with it, I'm going to do Control T, and my table has headers. I'm going to click like so, and on the table design ribbon, I'm going to call this table tblBudget. So that's my budget table there. I'm going to hit return like so. And then what you can do is I can just start typing here. So do 2025, and I can select another income. So let's do dividends. In fact, no, let me show you. Let's do mortgage here. So as I said, this would be a minus because it's an expense. So that's an income, and this one is an expense. So therefore, it's going to be a minus. So I'm going to do minus like so, and then just copy that across. So let me now just enter the budget for 2025. And as I say, you'd only do this once a year, and you should be able to copy it and paste it and add it on. So append it to your table and then just change the year to the next year, 2026. So when you get to 2026. So that's the beauty of this. So let me now just add the rest of my budget plan here. And there you go. So there's my budget for the year. So I've entered my income and my expenses, what I expect for 2025. Next, let's do our actuals. So let's set up our actuals. So if I go to the actuals tab, again, I need to put some things in here. So now the thing about Excel 365 and Excel, as far as the currency and the date format, so here in the UK we are day, month, year, but Excel should change based on your local regional settings of your machine, your computer. So just bear that in mind. So here I'm going to have, let's have a name here. So I'm going to call this current account. So that's the name of the account. The date is going to be day, month. So I'm going to go 04/01/25, like so. A description, let's call this demo rent. And because this is an income, so this is somebody paying me rent, so it's going to be a money in. So this is your money out, debit, money in, credit, and typically any current account or bank account, you should be able to download your transactions, the date, the description, and the debit and the credit format. All you've got to do is add the account name and add the subcategory here. So what I'm going to do is I want, so that is a date. That's great. It's picked it up automatically. This here is going to be a number. So again, I'm going to do Control 1 and make this a number. Now this is going to be, so I want 1,000 separator in there, but we're not going to have negatives because you will only have positive numbers in here. So that's the format. So here I'm going to put £200 here, and then again I need to do a data validation, so I'm going to go data validation, let's do a list. Again, I'm going to click in the source, do F3, the F3 key, select subcategories, click OK, then click OK. If I do the drop down and do R for rent, there's rent. I'm going to select that from the drop down. So I'm happy with that format, and again I'm going to do Control T to turn it into a table. I'm going to click OK. My table has headers. And on table design, I'm going to give this a meaningful name. I'm going to call this table Actuals. Yep, and I'm going to hit return. So again, let me just add January's data in here. As I say, you should be able to download it from your bank account and paste it in. So, for example, if I copy my bank account details here and I just basically paste that in, and all I've got to do then is just put some names down as far as my bank account and subcategories. So let me just do that as well. And there you go, done. So I've got January actuals in there. So now that we've got some data to work with, we can now start building our information as far as creating a report. So the first thing I'm going to do is on budget types. I don't need to do anything with this as far as Power Query is concerned, so I can shove it straight into our data model in Power Pivot. If you don't have Power Pivot ribbon here visible, then all you've got to do is go to File, go to Options, go to Add-ins, and at the bottom here you can see Manage Excel Add-ins. Do the drop down, select COM Add-ins, and click Go. Now here you can see Microsoft Power Pivot for Excel. You need to make sure that's ticked and click OK. I've already done it on my machine, so I don't need to do it again. So I'm going to click Cancel there. So that's how you get Power Pivot. So with the Power Pivot ribbon selected and you've got your table selected anywhere in your table, just click Add to Data Model here option. And there you go, it's now added that table to our data model within Power Pivot. So I can now close that, I don't need to leave it open, and I'm just going to hit save as well. And just remember to save your work at different periods. Yeah. So now I've added that to my data model, I now need to get my budget planner into Power Query. Now, while this is great as a user interface, it's not great when we're trying to do data analysis and do some stuff from a computer perspective. So again, within the table selected here, I'm going to do data, and I'm going to do from table and range. Let's put this into Power Query. So I've got the year selected there. I'm going to hold down the shift key and select subcategory, and then I'm going to right click on those and say unpivot other columns, and there we go. So now I'm going to hold down the control, select year, and then hold down the control key and select attribute. I'm then going to go to transform tab and do merge columns. My separator is going to be custom. I'm going to use a dash. I'm going to call this new column date. And I'm going to hit return. And as you see, you can see here it's recording the steps. Let me just name this as well, rename this. I don't want it to be called table budget. I'm going to call it budget data, like so, and hit return as far as the name. Now, as far as this date is concerned, I am going to move it to the left, and I'm on the transform tab or the home tab. I'm going to change the data type to a date. And there you go. It now recognizes it as a date. And then finally here on the value, I'm just going to double click on that and I'm going to change that and rename it to budget. And there you go. So I've now got my table in there, and I've got my budget data in there. Wonderful. Right. So I'm now going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to do close and load 2. I'm going to create a connection only. So only create a connection. I'm going to select that and click OK. So there you can see I've got my budget data. Next, we need to get our actuals into Power Query as well, because fundamentally I want our budget information and our actuals, or actual transactions, I want them to be in a single table so we can interrogate them in our report and analyze them. So I'm going to go to my actuals ribbon now, and again with this table, anywhere in this table selected, I'm going to do from table and range. So there's our transactions. So I'm going to change this date here. You see it's got the time in, so I'm just going to change that format to be just a date only. It says replace current. I think the one thing to know about Power Query, it does not change the source data. So it doesn't change that. It's just capturing these transactions. And again, I'm just going to rename this to be actuals data, like so, and hit return. The next thing I want to do is, because I want to do a mathematical calculation, it's not going to like it with nulls. So I need to change these columns. So anywhere I've got a null, I need to replace that with a 0. So I'm going to highlight these 2 columns like so. And I'm going to go to transform tab and do replace values. I'm going to replace null. So type in null, which is case sensitive, with 0, and then click OK. Wonderful. I'm just going to click off those, deselect them, and then I'm going to select the money in. I'm going to hold down the control key and select the money out column. And I'm going to do add column based on from a number, and I'm going to do a standard calculation. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to select that, and it's created this new column, and I'm just going to rename that as actual. So I've double clicked on the column and renamed it as actual. I don't need these 2 columns anymore, so I am now going to just remove those. I'm going to highlight them and then remove those columns. So I've now got my my actuals data there, like so. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to go to Home, close and load 2, and only create a connection, and click that and click OK. So I've now got my data from my 2 tables in Power Query. So I now need to append them. So I'm going to select either one of them, select budget and do edit. And then what I'm going to do is select the actuals data query here on the left hand side. I'm then going to go over to here, so make sure you've got that one selected, and then going to do append queries, do the drop down and append as new. I've only got 2 tables here, so I'm going to use that option. I'm going to do actuals data, and the other table is obviously going to be the budget data, and I'm going to click OK. Now on this, I'm just going to call it actuals, like so, and hit return. And again, what I'm going to do is make sure there's no nulls in the number field. So I am going to go highlight that, and I am going to do transform, replace values again, and again it's null. I'm going to put a 0 in there and click OK. Done. And what I want is, for our charts, I need the year and the month number as well. So I'm going to create that from my date column. So I'm going to highlight the date column, do add column, and I'm going to do the drop down from date and select year. Then I'm going to reselect the date column, the drop down on the date, and I'm going to take and create month. So I've got the month number. So I've now got my actuals data. That's perfect. And I am going to go to home, close and load to. I'm going to create a connection only, and I'm going to add it to the data model. So I'm going to add this data to the data model. So I'm click OK. And there you go. So 247 rows have been loaded. So now that we've got that loaded into Power Pivot, I'm going to select the Power Pivot ribbon here, and I'm going to select Manage. So I've now got my budget types in there, and here are the actuals in here. And I'm going to expand some of these columns. Again, I'm going to change the format on the date here. So on the home ribbon, I'm just going to change that format to be just a standard date. And I think everything else I'm going to leave the same here. So again, I've got a decimal number in here, I've got my year, and I've got my month. The other thing I'm going to add in here is a variance column. So I'm going to click the add column here, and here in the formula bar, I'm going to type variance, colon, then do equals. I'm going to do an open square, and it's going to be actual minus budget. That's the calculation. I'm going to hit return. And there you go. So I've now got my information in here as far as the variance is concerned. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a relationship between the budget types, so the subcategory here, and pull these through along with the subcategory in this table here. And to do that, I'm going to go into the diagram view. There's my actuals. I'm just going to expand that, and I'm going to create a one-to-many relationship. So I'm going to click the subcategory in the budget types. I'm going to drag it onto subcategory here in the actuals table. And there you go, I've got a one-to-many relationship now. Yeah, and that's done. I'm going to go back to my data view, and I'm going to close that down because I don't need to do any more now within Power Pivot. And you can see this is a black header here, which denotes it as a calculated column within Power Pivot within the data model. Okay, simple so far. I'm going to close that down, and again it's saying enable content now because we've got Power Pivot and we've got Power Query. So I'm going to click enable content because of those data connections, and I don't need this queries and connections open anymore, so I'm going to click the X and close that down, and I'm just going to hit save again. So now that I've created the relationships within and that variance column, I'm now ready to create my supporting pivot tables, which are driven from Power Pivot, and I can start creating my visuals for my chart. So the first one, let's go to the support sheet here, and I'm just going to click anywhere in here, and I'm going to do insert in pivot table, do the drop down, and do from data model. And I'm going to do an existing worksheet right here where I've got selected, and click OK. What I will do is I'm going to expand the budget table, and I'm going to drag category down here into rows. So there's the my categories, and then I'm going to take the actuals, which is sitting in Power Pivot as well, is I'm going to take actuals and drop that into the values. And I'm going to take the budget and I'm also going to drop that into the values also. Perfect. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert another column here. Make that a little bit wider. And with this table selected, because I only want expenses here. So with this pivot table selected, I'm going to go into pivot table analysis. And the first thing is I'm going to give it a meaningful name. So I'm going to call this PVT, pivot, and I'm going to call this categories. Yep, and hit return. And then also here I'm going to insert slicer with this selected. I'm going to insert slicer, and what I'm going to select is budget type. Click OK. Let me just move this over to the left, make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to select expense. So I've only got expenses in here, yeah. And then with this pivot table selected, I'm going to do insert, and I'm going to insert a bar chart. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. And with it selected, I'm going to hit the pivot chart analysis, do the drop down the fill buttons and say hide all. I'm going to select this axis here, the bottom axis here. I'm going to do Control 1. And I'm going to say values in reverse order. I'm then going to select, so axis options, I'm going to select the vertical category axis here. And then I'm going to go to labels. And I'm going to do low. Nope, wrong way around. I always get it the wrong way around. I'm going to do high then. There you go, that's better. So I want to the left of the bars. And then with this chart selected, I'm going to go onto design, and I'm going to select color palette, and I'm going to do light to dark here, so purple, and select that. Wonderful. I'm then going to select the budget bar here, and over on the right hand side, the formatting, I'm going to do the overlap as 100%. I'm going to change the gap width to 50%, like so. And still with the budget still selected, I'm going to go to fill, expand the fill. I'm going to say no fill there, and then the border, I'm going to do a solid line, and I'm going to select a dark purple and make it thicker so we can see it. There we go, wonderful. And then I'm going to take the plus sign here, and I'm going to take my legend and I'm going to put it on top. Let's move that over, like so. And then also going to give it a chart title. Let's call this categories. Let's call this expense categories. And I'm going to make that on the home ribbon, make it bold, and let's move that over to the left top there, like so. And then I'm going to select it, do Control X, go to the report, and I'm going to put it, let's put it on there on 16, I think. Let's put it there, do Control V. Let's make that. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key so it snaps to the grid lines here. So I'm going to grab that handle there. Let's take it to there, column H. Okay, I think that looks all right so far. We'll resize these in a bit. As you can see, that's changed. So let's just expand that. There you go. So it doesn't cut it off. Wonderful. And again, let's just take that. Hold the Alt key. Let's take that down to maybe 41 for now. And there we go. We've got our expense categories. That's our first chart. So let's go back to our support sheet. Right now, let's create our expenses for the year now, so we can see from January right through to December. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to do Control Copy, and I'm going to paste it to the next to it. And the beauty of this is that it's the link here is also copied as far as the slicer connection is concerned. And let's, with this selected, let's do a pivot table analysis, and I'm going to call this, and again it's really useful and really important to give your pivot tables a meaningful name, because it will help you in the long run to understand what you're doing. So I'm going to call this pivot expenses, like so, and hit return. And I'm just going to close down that format, and here category, I'm just going to take that out, and from the actuals I'm going to add year, and I'm going to add month, like so. Perfect. And then I'm going to, again with this selected, I'm going to do insert, and I'm going to insert a column chart here. I'm going to select that. I'm just going to do Control X, go to the report page, and let's just put it here somewhere. Do Control V. So again, on pivot analysis, I'm going to get rid of the buttons, so hide all, unfill buttons. And I'm going to select this axis here and do Control 1, and I'm going to put those in reverse order. I'm going to, again on the axis options here, I'm going to do the drop down, and I'm going to select the horizontal category axis. And again, let's see if I can get this right. Is it low? No, it's high. There you go. And then I'm going to select, again with this selected, I'm going to do the same color design palette there. So I'm going to hit design ribbon, change colors, and again I'm going to go light to dark. I'm going to select the budget column. Let's make them 100% overlap. Let's do the 50% gap width. Still with that budget selected, I'm going to go over to the fill. I'm going to do no fill. I'm going to do a solid border. Let's make that, keep that color. It's remembered it from last time. Let's make that 1.25, so it's a little bit thicker. Now let's take the legend and let's put that, oh no, I want it on top. Let's move that over to the right like so. Give it a header, give it a chart title. So let's call this expenses. Yeah, and let's make that bold, and let's move that over to the left. As far as alignment's concerned, I'm going to hold down the Alt key while I'm moving it, and I want it to just, let's put it to there. I've lined it up row 25 there, and I'm going to drag this across, and again grab the handle, hold the Alt key, it's snap into the grid, and again I'm going to take this and snap it down to 41. Okay, that looks all right to me. Wonderful. So now I want my income information as well. So let's grab income. So let's go back to the support sheet. So I want it to be the same as this, but I want it to be filtered on income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this. I'm going to do Control Copy, and then I'm going to allow some space for another slice of this. I'm going to do Control V, and on this I'm going to call it Pivot. So Pivot Table Analysis. I'm going to call this PVT Income. Hit Return. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And then on the report connections, I'm going to take this, right click on it and do report connections. And as you can see, this is where it's really helpful to have the pivot names. And I'm going to deselect pivot income and click OK. And then with that, this new table selected, so let's make this a little bit wider. Get rid of that for a second, and I'm going to get, and let's do on pivot table analysis, insert slicer, and again, I want budget type and click OK. Make that a little bit smaller and let's select income. Boom. And now I can, with that selected, I'm going to do insert. Let's insert another column chart. Again, just going to Control X to cut it. Let's go to here. I'm going to do it next to it for now. I'm going to do Control V. Let's get rid of that. I don't want it there. And again, I'm going to go pivot table analysis. I'm going to hide all the field buttons. Yeah. And I'm going to do Alt key just to snap it there. I'm going to do Alt key to drag that down so it's the same height. And then let's do design. And on the design, I'm going to go with a blue this time. So I'm going to do this blue here. Yeah. And again, I'm going to select the budget. I'm going to do Control 1. Let's just move this over so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to make this 100% overlap. Make the gap width 50% again. And I've still got the budget selected. I'm going to go over to the fill. I'm going to do no fill. Solid line. And then let's take this. Take that one. Let's make it thicker so we can see it. And then I'm going to put the legend on top again. So move it over to the left, over to the right, should I say, left. And then let's add the chart title. And let's call this income. Okay, let's make that bold. Let's move that over to the left. So now if I just drag this and I want it to, yeah. Again, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, grab this handle and just drag it so it's now the same size as that. So now we've got our expense categories, we've got information, and we've also got our income and expense budget and actual. So we can see that there like so. So next, I want to create some actuals versus budget information here by category. So let me just close that down for a second here. And let's place it here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do insert and do from insert pivot table and from data model. And again, where I've selected there. So let's just move this over so we can see what's going on. So I want category. In fact, no. Yeah, I want category, but then I want budget type at the top, like so. There you go. And let's just take that there. In fact, let's just get the rest of it in there. So then I want from the actuals table, I want actuals. I want budget, and I want variance. Now what I'm going to do here, because I want this to show in actual currency here, so I'm going to take each column or field within the pivot table, and with that selected, well, anywhere in the pivot table selected, to be honest, doesn't make any difference, but over here on the sums here, I'm going to do the drop down and do field value settings, number format. I'm going to go currency. I don't want decimal places, and that's fine. So I've got pounds, and that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do OK, click OK. Great, so let me just do it for the other two columns here. Done. Perfect. Next thing is I'm going to take this here and I'm going to just grab it and I'm going to drag it up to the top because I want income at the top and expenses at the bottom. And then on design, I want subtotals at the bottom of the group, and I want blank rows after each item. There we go. Perfect. And then what I want is some kind of visual indicator here. So, you know, for example, I've got earnings and I've got a budget. So obviously my earnings are, my actuals are under the budget and so on. And here, as far as expenses, at the moment, these are all positive, so they're good. So if this number's a positive, it's good. If it's a negative, then it's, you know, below zero, then it's bad. So let's put a visual indicator there to help us. So with any one of these selected here in variances, I'm going to go to the home ribbon, do conditional formatting, one icon sets, and I'm going to take these flags here. And then I'm going to do the drop down and I want to apply it to all values. Great. I'm then going to go to conditional formatting and go manage rules because I don't want the amber or the red. It's all relative at the moment. So I'm going to do manage rules. I'm going to select it and do edit rule. And what I want is I want it based on a number. And this one on a number as well. So it's equal or greater than 0, then green, wonderful. The amber I don't want, so I'm going to do the drop down and do no cell icon for that. And then here it's saying if it's less than 0, it's red. Brilliant, that's what I want. And I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to click OK again. And there you go. So at the moment, it's showing that everything is, because we're only in January, but it's showing, you know, budget for the whole of the year. So I need to do something about that, and we need to add a time slicer. So I'm going to select inside this pivot table, and first of all, as always, I'm going to give it a meaningful name. So I'm going to do pivot table analysis, and I'm going to call it PVT report, so I know what it is. And then still on that pivot table analysis, I'm going to select insert timeline, and I'm going to select date. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this over to the left here, because I'm going to put it and let's make this again Alt key so it snaps. And using the Alt key, drag it across to the right there. If I just move that, I'm going to select January. And there you go. Everything now seems to be working fine. If I select all of it, it changes. Brilliant. That's what I want. It works. On this design, I'm going to go timeline here, and I think I'm going to go with that one. I like that colour. Wonderful. Okay. Right. Next, I want some additional information. In fact, I'm going to change this name here actually. So let's call this actuals, and because it's power pivot, we can actually overwrite the column names. I'll remember them. I'm going to do actuals versus budget. That's fine. Let's just get rid of that. I'm also going to right click on this because I don't want. I'm going to go to pivot table options, and I'm just going to stop it from auto fitting the columns as well, so it doesn't keep changing size or affecting the columns. Perfect. Right. So that's now working. The other thing I want to look at now is I want something here that's going to tell me what my opening balance is. I also want something in here that's going to, I want a header on here. I want to see what's going on as far as the rest of my income's concerned, and so on. So let's put some stuff, some formatting up here as far as the heading is concerned. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all this. I'm going to do fill, and let's take that one. Yep, that works. So I want to see how I'm performing against income and expense overall as well, and I want it affected by the timeline also. So what I'm going to do is I want something, let's go here. I'm going to merge and center. I'm going to make the font in there 14, and I'm going to change the fill to be a lighter blue, I think. Let's go with that one. And let's do the outline. I'm going to do the drop down on the outline, the borders, do more borders, and I want it to be, let's make it that one, make it thicker and do OK. There you go. And then I want to make, so let's just say this is going to be expenses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the Windows key semicolon. So this is going to be let's take that one and let's make it income. Yeah. Let's make that white and let's make it bold, and let's just, I'm going to highlight both cells, do Control-1 and alignment. I'm going to align it horizontally across selection and click OK. Okay, that's my income. Okay, I'm just going to make this equals, and this is going to be my actuals total income. So I'm going to reference the pivot table. So I know based on that get pivot, as this changes and moves, it will automatically refresh. The only thing is if we do have a 0, I'm just going to make sure if error with that is just put a 0 there, close that bracket and hit return. I'm then going to go to general and I'm going to make that a currency, and I don't want any decimal places on it. Wonderful. Now on that, I want to be able to do a bar chart based on what the budget is, reference what the actuals is. So using conditional formatting. So I'm going to do conditional formatting, data bars, and let's take this one. Yeah. And I'm going to select that. And at the moment, it's filling it. I'm going to put that center and make the bold, and let's make it white. There we go. It stands out a bit better, doesn't it? And what I'm going to do is I need a max number to reference there. So what I'm going to do is go to my support sheet, insert another row here. So I'm going to just insert, and let's do budget income. Oh, can't spell. And that's going to be equals, go to the report, and again I'm going to reference the budget total there. Again I'm just going to put if error, so I'm going to do if error, put 0 there. I'm going to do comma 0 and hit return. And then all I've got to do is on this, so this conditional formatting, I'm going to manage it. I'm going to select this and do edit, and I am going to, as far as the maximum is concerned, I'm going to do it's a number, and I'm going to point it to that cell there where I've got the max and hit return. Then I'm going to click OK, and then click OK again. So now, if I just do that, you'll see it becomes dynamic. It adjusts, and I can see relatively where we're at as far as my income's concerned. Perfect. So let's just change that back to January. I'm going to take this and I'm going to do the same thing here now. So I'm going to merge the cells. I'm going to make the font 14. Let's do a fill. I'm going to make it that colour there, a light purple for my expenses. And I'm going to add a border. So more borders, and let's take that there, that one, do the outline, click OK. So I've got my border. Again, let's make that equals my expenses there. So now I want this to be an absolute number because it won't work on a negative number with the data bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap that in ABS absolute function. So it makes it absolute. I'm going to make it a currency. No decimal places. Let's make it bold. Let's make it white. And so horizontally it's centered as well. Right, that's perfect. And again, I'm just going to add an error, an if error there. Let's put a 0. Like so. And hit return. And now I'm going to do conditional formatting, data bar. Let's go with this one here. I don't like the colour of that. So let's go to my support sheet and let's do budget expenses. Yeah, and here I'm going to do equals this value here, budget, yeah, and hit return. Again, I'm going to make this an absolute number, so I'm going to wrap it in ABS, the absolute function, the ABS function. So it's absolute. And again, I'm going to wrap that in an if error function as well. And if there's an error, comma 0. Just put a 0 in place and hit return. Perfect. If I go to the report, I'm going to take this conditional format and I'm going to manage the rule. So I'm going to edit that rule. I'm going to change this color. I don't like it, so I'm going to put a darker purple there. Then I'm going to take the maximum, make it a number, and I'm going to point it to that cell on the support sheet where the budget expenses is and hit return. Then hit return again. and apply and click OK. And there you go. So that now works as well. Perfect. Let's just here I'm going to do let's do Windows : let's do the downward hand space to expenses, return. Again, just going to make that bold and white and highlight those two cells. Do Control-1, alignment horizontally across selection, center across selection, and click OK. Right, so I've now got two indicators there. Let's put something here as well. I think let's take this, and I'm going to merge and center that. Yeah, let's make it, and let's do put a title here: personal budget report. Again, let's make that center, and let's make it white and bold, and let's make it bigger. So, all right, yeah, that works. Let's put an icon here as well. Let's put insert icon. I'm going to search for a report type icon. There you go. Select that, insert it, and let's make it a little bit bigger. Change the graphic fill to white. Boom. Now that's looking better, isn't it? What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this column here, and then Control key and highlight this column. And it's going to make those a little bit thinner. You'll notice everything moves with it. That's fine. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to do over here. I want a column, so I want to be able to enter my starting balance for the year, and then based on the transactions, what does that look like? Yeah. So let's put something here. So I need a starting balance first of all. So let's take this cell here, and let's take that one there. Let's merge and center. Again, I'm going to make it, let's make that 14. And let's make it automatic, bold. And I'm going to make it currency. Let me just put a number in there, 2000. There you go. Let's make that stand out a little bit more. Yeah, and let's make that middle. Let's add a border. More colors. That one. And then let's do starting balance like so. Let's make that bold and white. Let's make it a little bit bigger as well, I think. 14. And again, highlight the two cells, do Control-1. Alignment, let's align it horizontally, center across selection, click OK. Skadoosh. So that's a starting balance. So I now need, on my support sheet, I need to create something for, so I want my starting balance. Yeah. I want my transaction totals. and then I want my ending balance done. Let's make that a little bit bigger. That one's easy. It's going to equal for what I enter in there. Hit return. You see it's got 2 there because it's taken the merge. I only want V4 there, so I'm going to get rid of the. There you go, that's better. And let's make this a currency. I'm going to get rid of the decimal places there. Transaction totals is going to be based on on this pivot table, which is this number here. So what's the net total based on income and expense? So that's what I want. So I'm going to do equals, I'm going to do report and select that there. And again, I'm going to do an if error. So do if error. And do 0 if there's an error there. Again, I'm going to make that currency. No decimal places. And ultimately, I just need to sum those two, don't I? So we do Alt equals key and hit return. And there we go. So that is the information I need for my chart on that report. So I'm going to highlight those two there, hold down the control key, highlight the ending balance, and then I'm going to do insert. And I'm going to insert, again, a column chart. Right, let's do control X. It's my reports. My report, do control V. I don't want that there. I don't need the axes. I'm going to chart title. I'm going to call this balance. So make that bold. And as far as these are concerned, I want data labels. I'm going to insert data labels there. Get rid of that. I'm going to select this one here, do control 1. Again, I'm just going to make it a 50% width, gap width, and then with this one starting balance selected, I'm going to do fill, solid fill. Let's make it a light blue, solid line. Let's make that dark. Yeah, make that slightly thicker. Okay, that looks fine. I'm going to select this, make it bold. Take these, I'm going to make them bold, and let's make them 14, slightly bigger. And there you go. So now, if I change that, that seems to work as far as my actuals, yeah? So now, if I change that to 4,000, yeah, that changes, great. So as I add more actuals, it will impact my ending balance. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do hold down the Alt key. Let's make sure this is all aligned and aligned like so. Wonderful. I'm going to make this one a little bit thinner as well. So last thing I want to do is, it'd be great to have an option where I've got 2 optional drop downs here where I can choose something and track it as well on here in the same way that we've got this here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's take that there and let's merge and center. Let's make it 14. Let's make it white and bold and center aligned. And let's make it a currency. I'm just going to put 200 in this so I can see what I'm working with. There we go. I don't want the decimal places. As far as the fill's concerned, I'm going to go with that one, make it slightly different to these over here. Border, more borders. Let's do whites. That, say white, a very light purple, almost pink. Click OK. And as far as the header's concerned, in fact, I'm going to make this 14. Make that one 14 as well. Yeah, that's better. And I'm going to take you, do Control Copy, and let's just do the same thing there as well, and do Control V, so I've copied that. And then this is going to be option 1. It's going to be option 2. Let's make this bold and white. Make you white and bold also. Again, I think I want this to be 14, don't I? 14, and let's just again highlight button, do Control 1. Let's do alignment, center cross selection. Boom. Right. So that works. So what I want to do is I want to have a drop down here where I can select. Other subcategories, so I can just see again a data bar showing me the performance or how well I'm doing against those. So the way that we're going to do that is we need to create some drop downs. So first of all, I need a unique list. It should be unique anyway, so let's just put some titles there. Let's move over. So I want my subcategories. What I'm going to do is do equals sort, because they should all be unique anyway in that table. I'm going to do table budget types, open square bracket, and I want subcategory. Close that square bracket and close the bracket on the sort. So those are my subcategories. I then want somewhere to capture my option 1 this selection, and I want somewhere to capture my option 2 selection. So that's going to be equals, go back to my report, that's going to be that cell there, and this one is going to be equals, and that's going to be this cell here. So I've basically pulled through the titles. Now what I'm going to do is on my report, I'm going to put data validation here. So I'm going to do data validation, select data validation again. I'm going to select list, and this time I'm going to point it to this sort here and do hash, so it includes the whole of the spill range, and then into that and into that. If I then take a drop down, let's do, again I can do E, I want electric. Let's do the same here. Data validation, let's do a list. Let's point it to that sort. Do hash to include the spill range, and again because it's dynamic. Okay, and again let's do the drop down, let's do D, let's include dividends in this example. Right, So now when I go to my support sheet, I've got electric and I've got dividends. So what I want now for each option is I want actuals and I want budget, don't I? Let's just take that there. Control copy. Do Control V. I've got to get my actuals and budget from somewhere, haven't I? And I also want it to be impacted by the date range also. So what I'm going to do is here is I'm going to do insert pivot table from data model, and based on the cell that I've just selected, I'm then going to go to budget types. I'm going to take my, in fact I don't even need that. I can take subcategory from there, just put that as a row label. Let me just move that over so you can see what's happening. And then I can add sum of actuals, and I can add budget as well. And there you go. Then all I've got to do, close that down, don't need it. As far as my actuals are concerned, I do equals, and let's do sum if. So my range, based on my criteria, is going to be this column here. I'm going to do F4 to make it absolute. Yeah. The criteria is going to be this cell here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make the row absolute, and then my sum range is going to be, as far as the actuals, is going to be that. I'm going to keep that relative. In fact, no, I'll just make that F4 as well. And I'm going to close the bracket, and I'm going to hit return. What I do is I need this to be absolute, so I'm just going to make that ABS absolute value. And then as far as this is concerned, I'm just going to drag that down. Oh, not as in copy it down, not drag it down. So that should be the same, but all I need to do is make that Z, yeah. Oh, so I'll get in, and boom. Again, if I'm just going to make sure, if error, just put a 0 in there. Turn again, if error on this one. Make that a 0. And I'm going to take these two here, I'm going to do Control copy, and I'm just going to paste them here, and that should be exactly the same then. So just check. Yeah, that's fine. So now I've got my options here, and these are all going to be dynamic based on me changing these headings here. Is I am going to do, as far as my this one here, I'm going to do equals, go to my support sheet, and the actuals is always going to be that one on option 1, this one, option 2, I'm going to do equals, to my support sheet and choose the actuals on the option 2 support sheet, option 2, and then as far as I'm going to do, again, I'm going to do conditional formatting and do data bar. Let's do, again, do conditional formatting, data bar. Let's take that one. So let's take this one first. I'm going to do conditional formatting, manage the rule. Let's edit it. So again, as far as the maximum, I'm going to make that a number, and I'm going to point it on option 1 on the support sheet to the budget number. and then I'm going to hit return, and I'm just going to change the color to be, let's make it that one, and do OK, and do OK. Let's take this one here, and again, manage rules on the conditional formatting, click it, do edit. Let's make it's a number, let's point it to the budget number, and again, let's make this that one, and do OK, and do apply, and do OK. And there you go. Let's do view, and let's get rid of the grid lines. Let's just hide the support sheet because we don't need that open anymore. And again, you can change the color of these. So these, again, icons I've got in front of it. All I've done again is the windows and semicolon to get the emojis up. I'm going to also right click on this and do tab color. Let's make that that blue. Actuals, again, tab color. Let's make it that color. And then budget types, let's do tab. Let's make that that color green, and this one, let's do tab color. Let's make it that color green, just to make it a little bit more interesting. I think on my actuals here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this here. Again, with the table selected, I'm going to do table design. I'm going to insert slicer, and I'm just going to have my subcategories there also. I'm going to do OK. And let me just hold down the Alt key. Let's make that so it's snapping. And again, with the slicer selected on the slicer options, let's increase the column count. There you go. So now, if I select that, I can filter the information in here. So let's add some more actuals data in here so we can have a bit more data. There you go. I've added up to 7 months now, up to end of July there. And if I scroll up, I can do a filter on the date as well. So you can filter on month, you can filter on the account, you can filter on the description, and you can filter on the subcategory type, like so, which makes that really useful. If I go to the report now, and if I do, because at the moment we've only got January showing actuals, if I do on the data ribbon, do refresh all, and there you go, and we've now got some actuals as well. And if I scroll this should all change as well, and these will all change accordingly as well. So if I take up to July, and let me just check, because this should be changing. I want this to change, and these need to change based on the date bar, and they don't. So this is changing and this is changing, but this isn't, and these aren't. So let's just check the report connections. Let's put that back to July. I'm going to right click on this and do report connections. And look, I haven't named a table. So let me just cancel that for a second. Let's unhide, right click and unhide the support sheet. Because I am OCD about these things, I'm going to rename this. So on pivot table analysis, I'm going to give this a meaningful name. So let's call this PVT. I'll call it options, so I know what it is. I hit return. I'm then going to rehide that. Let's go back to report connections on this slicer. So I want the categories to be, this chart to be impacted, and I want the options. The income and expenses, because they're an annual, I want them left alone, but everything else I want to be interacted by the slicer, the date slicer. So I'm going to click OK. Wonderful. Now let's just select that, and there you go. These are now changing, and this changes as well. Yeah. Go back to to July. Boom. Works. And there you go. So that is how you create your own personal budget template. So using Power Query and Power Pivot together, and hopefully you've learnt some new tricks. And if so, please remember to click that like and subscribe and smash that notifications button for future content. And as always, I wish you an absolutely wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.